For generations, the story of how humanity met its best friend has been comfortable, logical, and deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness. We have long been taught that the domestic dog is a relatively recent invention, a byproduct of the agricultural revolution. The standard textbook narrative suggests that as humans finally settled into permanent farming communities, some 10 to 15,000 years ago, wolves began scavenging the refuse heaps on the edge of our villages. In this version of history, civilization rose first, and the dog followed, slowly becoming tamer, smaller, and more docile, until the wild predator evolved into the loyal companion we know today. It is a sensible, tidy theory. Humans create stability, and nature adapts to it. But there is a massive crack in this foundation. It is a flaw so significant that it completely unravels our understanding of prehistoric life in the Americas. The evidence for this disruption was not found in a high-tech laboratory, but in an Illinois cornfield, buried deep beneath the earth, waiting to tell a story that predates the first American farm by thousands of years. The lower Illinois River Valley, about 80 kilometers north of St. Louis. When Northwestern University anthropologist Stuart Struve began surveying Theodore and Mary Koster's farmland in 1968, he had no idea he was standing on top of one of North America's most significant archaeological time capsules. Over years of excavation, the site revealed 25 distinct layers of human occupation, spanning over 8,000 years. But buried within Horizon 11, dating to the early Archaic period, excavators found something that stopped the work in its tracks. Amidst the stone tools and human graves were 3 small, complete skeletons. They were dogs. These animals had been laid to rest with care usually reserved for human family members. Each dog was placed in its own shallow, basin-shaped pit, curled on its side, legs tucked in a natural sleeping position. There were no cut marks, no evidence of skinning, no signs of butchery. These animals had not been consumed, they had been mourned. One dog was found with a grinding stone placed near its skull, a grave good hinting at ritualistic significance. For decades, these dogs were assumed to be roughly 8,500 years old, based on radiocarbon dating of charcoal in the surrounding soil. But in 2018, the timeline shattered. Zooarchaeologist Angela Perry of Durham University returned to these bones with accelerator mass spectrometry, a technique that dates the collagen preserved within the bone itself, not the surrounding material. The results were unequivocal and shocking. The Koster dogs were not 8,000 years old, they were 10,000 years old. The implications are profound. 10,000 years ago, there was no agriculture in North America. There were no permanent farming villages for wolves to scavenge. These dogs were present in the American Midwest 6,000 years before the first crops were sown. This shattered the agriculture hypothesis entirely. Furthermore, genetic analysis revealed these were not local wolves tamed in Illinois. They were fully domesticated dogs that had arrived with the very first humans to set foot on the continent. To trace their origin, researchers sequenced DNA from 71 ancient dog specimens across the Americas, including those from Koster. The data revealed that ancient American dogs formed a distinct lineage, genetically closer to ancient Siberian dogs than to North American wolves. This genetic bridge connects them to a divergence event roughly 16,000 years ago, forcing us to rewrite the setting of domestication itself. It did not happen in warm farm fields. It happened in the brutal freeze of the last glacial maximum in Siberia around 23,000 years ago. Picture the scene. The world is locked in ice. Resources are scarce. Both humans and grey wolves are forced into the same shrinking environmental refuges. In this crucible of survival, the fear barrier broke down. Wolves that could tolerate human proximity got scraps, and humans who tolerated wolves got an alarm system and hunting aid. Over thousands of years in Beringia, the wolf became the dog. When humans crossed the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas roughly 16,000 years ago, they did not walk alone. They brought their dogs with them. This created a puzzle known as the dog delay. We have evidence of humans in North America 16,000 years ago, but the oldest dog remains were only 10,000 years old. Where were the dogs during that 6,000-year gap? In 2020, a dusty bone fragment provided the answer. University of Buffalo geneticist Charlotte Lindqvist was analysing a specimen from a cave in southeast Alaska, catalogued as PP00128 and labelled as a bare bone. DNA sequencing revealed it was actually a dog, and it was 10,150 years old, slightly older than the Koster specimens. The location is vital. It was found along the Pacific coast in a region that remained a coastal refuge during the Ice Age. This supports the coastal migration theory, suggesting the first Americans did not just walk through an interior corridor, they travelled along the Pacific coast, possibly using boats. These families moved along glacier edges in skin vessels, navigating icy waters with their dogs huddled beside them. These animals were essential cargo, brought because survival without them was unimaginable. The bones tell us why they came. Isotope analysis proves the Koster dogs ate a diet rich in freshwater fish, the exact same diet as their human owners. They were not scavenging, they were being fed from the catch. One skeleton from the nearby Stillwell 2 site speaks volumes about this bond. This dog died at an advanced age, but its final years must have been difficult. Its skeleton shows severe periodontal disease. The molars were ground down to the root, and the canine teeth were worn blunt. From a veterinary standpoint, this animal would have been in chronic pain, unable to chew hard food. In a strictly utilitarian society, a toothless dog is a burden. Yet, this dog survived. The only way it could have lived to such an age is if its human companions processed its food, perhaps grinding fish into soft mush to keep it alive. This is not the behaviour of people managing livestock. It is the behaviour of people caring for family. It proves that empathy for animals is not a modern luxury, but an ancient trait. There is, however, a tragic epilogue. The ancient dog lineage that trekked across the Bering Land Bridge and populated 2 continents for 10 millennia is effectively gone. When European colonists arrived after 1492, they brought their own breeds. The native dogs, isolated for thousands of years, had no immunity to European canine diseases. Distemper and rabies likely swept through with devastating speed. Cultural prejudice played a grim role too. Colonists described indigenous dogs as wolf-like or vicious, and they actively discouraged breeding with European stock. When indigenous communities were violently displaced, their dogs were often slaughtered alongside them. Today, when you analyse modern American dog DNA, even native breeds like Chihuahuas show overwhelmingly European ancestry. The original genetic signature has been almost entirely erased. In 2018, researchers studying canine transmissible venereal tumour, a contagious cancer that affects dogs globally, sequenced the tumour's genome. They discovered this cancer carries DNA of its original host, a single dog that lived thousands of years ago. To their astonishment, the tumour's DNA matched the ancient American dog lineage. It is a macabre irony. The actual bodies of the Koster dogs have turned to dust, their lineage extinguished by colonization. But the genetic code of that founding dog lives on, replicating endlessly as a parasite within modern dogs. It is a biological ghost, a silent witness to a lost era, surviving in the only way it could. The discoveries at Koster in Alaska have elevated the dog from scavenger to pioneer. We now know dogs were essential partners in one of the most daring migrations in human history. They did not wait for us to build farms. They walked with us into the unknown, crossing the frozen bridge between worlds when we were still nomads. The careful burials in Illinois prove this relationship was never purely transactional. 10,000 years ago, people looked into the eyes of these animals and saw something worth saving, worth feeding, and ultimately, worth mourning. The relationship we have with dogs today is not a modern invention. It is a partnership forged in Siberian ice 23,000 years ago and carried across continents through some of the most challenging conditions humans have ever faced. When we look at our dogs today, we are seeing the end result of the oldest domestic relationship in human history, a bond so deep that ancient people carried these animals thousands of kilometers across ice and ocean, buried them with honor when they died, and valued them not for what they could do, but for who they were. Thank you for watching this episode of Strata Files. If you enjoyed this exploration of our ancient partnership with dogs, please like the video and subscribe. Let us know in the comments. Do you think the human-dog bond fundamentally changed how humans were able to colonize new continents? We will see you in the next layer.